Welcome, everybody, to the BAMP podcast. And I am Jason Tondro, your host. And we're here to talk about the first episode of Star Trek Picard, which has just come out. And I am joined for tonight's show with a couple of very special guests. Jim Seals, a television and film critic, an old friend of mine, who has written extensively about Star Trek.
Mostly in social media circles that no one else reads but Jason.
That's not true at all. And also Abe Smith, who has written and contributed to the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. Welcome, Abe.
Hello.
You're joining us from England.
Correct.
And so it's like 10 o'clock at night, and you just got out of the role-playing game.
I have. I've just been playing some Gamma World 4th edition. So yeah.
Wow, nice. That's the randomized one, right? Where everyone's powers change every hour.
This is the one based on 2nd edition D&D rules.
Oh.
The 4th edition one that's based on 4th edition rules is technically the 7th edition of Gamma World, I believe. So it's all very confusing.
All right, fair enough. Before we get even into the show, we should note that Star Trek has become famous in pop culture for an unexpected reason this week, as the United States Space Force revealed its new logo, which is straight up stolen from the Starfleet logo. What do we think?
Yeah, go.
What do you think?
I just assumed it was an arrow pointing upwards to let them know where space was. That was, it's like up there. Okay, that's where we're aiming for. Fine, okay.
I found it funny that 2 weeks ago, the news about Space Force was everyone's giving Space Force shit because their uniforms came out, and their uniforms are just camouflage, and everyone was like, "I don't think there's any jungles in space."
Right.
But now they're camouflage.
Hey, we have to plan. We have to plan for the Ewok invasion. They eat people. That is canon.
That is true. Yes.
So it seems like the poor Space Force, they literally cannot win. They're either not spacey enough, or they're too spacey.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally think if they don't,
that actually feels like a thing that we can apply to Picard. Is it spacey enough?
Yes. Okay.
So, it predominantly takes place on Earth.
All right. So let's get to the show. So for those of you that maybe are coming in new, we probably will spoil the hell out of this episode of Picard.
Yes.
And the first episode just played a couple of nights ago. We're recording this on Saturday as we sit here. The series, I've got conflicting reports. I've got some online reports that tell me there are 10 episodes in the season. Jim, you are firmly convinced there are only 8.
Yeah, I was the last press release I had read, which was granted a couple months ago, said it was 8 episodes.
But the show has already been renewed for a second season. It's set 18 years after the end of Star Trek Nemesis, which is roughly real time. That is about the same number of years since the film actually came out. And it recognizes the events of the 2009 Star Trek film in which Romulus is exploded in a supernova. And Patrick Stewart himself is executive producer, and there's a bunch of very famous and well-known Star Trek names associated with the show, including Alec Kurtzman. Michael Chabon is the showrunner. Kirsten Beyer, a novelist and writer on Discovery, is writing for Picard. And then we also have Akiva Goldsman, who is writer of Fringe and a bunch of really terrible movies. So what do you guys think? We'll get to specifics later, but first, general impressions. What do you think of the show?
Jim, after you, sir.
Sure. I quite liked it. Overall, it was about what I expected from what I had read in terms of interviews and statements that, Sir Patrick Stewart and the producers were saying. And I think overall, I'm pretty positive on it.
You said
my wife, my better half, was not enthusiastic about it though.
Why didn't she like it?
I think she wanted more of the next generation, and I kind of had to say no. That's not like this is kind of a sequel to the entire Borman era of Star Trek, but it is going in a different tone.
So tell me what you mean by that. That it's a sequel to the whole Berman era.
Well, we already have Jerry Ryan confirmed, right?
Yeah.
As 7 of 9.
Yeah.
We've seen pictures of home. Sort of jumping ahead a little bit in your notes.
Sure.
Trek has had this obsession for the last 15 years or so. 15 years or so of trying to be young and trying to appeal to younger people.
Okay.
So we've had prequel after prequel after prequel because it's more two-fisted adventures when you're in Kirk's time.
Okay.
And let's sit here and have a news interview about this awful incident that happened that defined your life. Like, I could never see Kirk doing an interview like that.
All right. So there's a bunch that we should get to, but before we do, what'd you think?
I really loved it. I really did like it. If nothing else, for starters, it looked really, really nice.
Yeah.
It looked like a film, and I think Amazon put a lot of money into this. So that just as soon as the opening shot of the Enterprise D came along, and you think, okay, this looks really good, and then you got into the actual 10 forward, and obviously Data being there was a good start straight away because Data's obviously great. So the idea you put him in the first 5 minutes is like, okay, that's a good selling point. But it just looks so nice that it looks like cinematic. It almost could be the first scene of another Trek movie. It looked rather than a TV series. I mean, obviously, if you go back now and watch Next Generation, you can tell it's a TV series because obviously it was made in '87 or whatever when it first started. Yeah. So this is really good. But the actual content, what's going on, there was some excellent stuff, some callbacks to past episodes, which kind of seemed to be really good. The idea call back to the 2009 movie as well is cool because that's where the fracture point is for the Abrams universe and that kind of stuff. So they kind of acknowledge that. So the first part of that is still core universe timeline. The other one's the other timeline. So that's nice. I love Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart just being Patrick Stewart is brilliant. Yeah. So the idea he seemed to go straight into Kirk straight away. Kirk into Picard straight away. Oh, different song. And it felt like he hadn't removed himself. Nothing had changed for Picard he was like playing a different character. It didn't seem like, okay, well, now I'm playing the kind of the slightly rough and tumble Picard or slightly gruff. So it seemed to be a natural progression for that character. And especially when he kind of decides at the end of the episode and kind of says, right, I've been sitting here all day. This is not living. This is just waiting to die, and kind of that seems to be like, okay, you've been defeated by other people's decisions and forced out of Starfleet. Now you get off your ass and actually do something about it. I just really loved it. I thought it was really, really good. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm really looking forward to more episodes.
There's a bunch of stuff in there that I'm eager to talk about, but I want to step back a minute. And Jim, you mentioned that you had watched, read some interviews and sort of were preparing for the show. I don't know if you've watched like any of the post-show commentary or any of the. Are you watching Discovery?
I've watched all of Discovery. Yeah. Okay. I watched one review on YouTube that I tend to kind of the people that do it tend to listen to it, and they were kind of fairly positive. I tried to avoid as much as possible beforehand because again, people were saying it's going to be too political, and I thought, well, no one knows yet because no one's seen it. So let me see it first, and then we can decide. So after then,
do we need to watch? I know that the Short Trek series on CBS, and Aid, you mentioned that Amazon put a lot of money into this, but of course it's not an Amazon show. It's a CBS show that is playing on Amazon, right? For you guys.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, of course.
We can't watch it on Amazon here in the States. We have to watch it on CBS.
Right, that makes sense.
But anyway, I know that there are some Short Trek episodes that tie in to Picard. Are they necessary? I haven't seen them. Do I need to watch them?
See, I've not seen them. They've not been released in Netflix over here, so I would say at the moment no, because I've not seen them and I'm okay. But Jim, you may know different.
Help us out. Walk us through.
So there was only one. It was called Children of Mars.
Okay.
And it sets the emotional tone of Picard. more than anything plot. So essentially, it's almost silent film between these two middle school girls who are trying to one up each other. One's an alien, and one's a human, and both their parents work at Utopia Planitia, and they can't come because they are elite. Then it's set on False Contact Day, which I think is super important. And that's when the attack happens. Right, and so it's sort of it's like watching 9/11 from a civilian point of view, that sort of that emotional disconnect and otherworldliness, but there's not a lot of plot.
So I wanted to kind of walk through and connect the dots a little bit here about the connection between the Romulus explosion, which is the plot point that we already had going into this, and the Mars explosions, which is the new bit, right? So if I understand right, the Starfleet went to rescue the Romulans, but then this other emergency happened, and so Starfleet pulled back from helping the Romulans, and they stopped, and then that's when Picard quit.
I believe they said that some of the Romulan ships were destroyed.
Abe?
Yeah, sorry. I thought they said also that some of the Romulan ships were destroyed. Or the rescue ships were destroyed as well. So they may have been. I think, did they say, was it 90,000 casualties or something like that, or 900,000 or something like that? There was quite a lot of people that were killed, and I thought that was Romulan deaths as well as Mars deaths as well, but I could be wrong.
Jim?
So I watched the episode again in preparation for this conversation. And then I also watched the Ready Room conversation that Will Wheaton does.
Yes.
And there was a video package that sort of happened is the sun went nova. Picard tried to help with the rescue of that.
Yep.
And then while he's building the Armada at Utopia Planitia, that's when the synths attack. And that's when essentially Mars catches on fire.
Okay.
And then so everyone was like, well, we can't help out these Romulans. And Picard's like, well, if you don't let me continue helping out these Romulans, I quit. And the Federation's like, okay, we'll take your resignation. You can leave now.
All right. So they were
and that was explained more in the Ready Room.
Gotcha.
The Armada that they were building on Mars was the rescue mission for Romulus.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Gotcha.
And I know there is a Star Trek called.
Go ahead.
There is a countdown comic for Star Trek Picard, but I have not yet read that. I do know that Geordi LaForge is at Utopia Planitia. I don't know if he's going to wind up being a of that attack.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I think the last issue comes out this week, so I may be talking to Mrs. until letting me go spend a couple extra bucks from the paycheck to get the 3 issues. And I may report back next time.
I remember from 2009 that LaForge was involved in the creation of the Jellyfish starship.
Yeah.
Yes.
According to that countdown book, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because someone was saying,
but that's no longer in continuity. Because in that book, Data's alive.
That's right. Data.
Yeah.
Data is captain of the Enterprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Enterprise F, I believe.
Right, which he cannot have ever been in Picard continuity. So that countdown comic is now declared invalid. It is unworthy. Yeah.
Because someone was talking about the actual first part of the 2009 movie and the way it fitted in, because they were saying about the jellyfish and the red doodah stuff they used, and someone was saying that the Spock rescue mission was possibly either like a parallel mission or a mission after they pulled away from it because of the police. So it kind of fits in there if you kind of shuffle it one way or another.
Yeah.
But they don't immediately contradict or reference each other, kind of thing.
Like the Picard's mission with the Armada was Plan A.
Yes, that kind of thing. And when that either fell apart or there was like, okay, we're not going to get everybody off. Spock's thing was the secondary.
Spock's was the Hail Mary pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. That's cool. All right, so some of this stuff we already started to talk about a little bit. Why do we need another Star Trek show? If the answer is assumed to be yes, because we all want more Star Trek in our lives, why do we need this one? Like, we had Discovery, right? Like, why do we need this show?
I think it's, well, if I'll say my piece and then
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
shut up.
Yeah, no. You're not on the show to shut up, Jim.
I think so because we need leadership, right? We live in a time where our political leaders that we normally look to for some semblance of stability are more interested in propagating their own pet projects than in waking up. And the fact that Picard wakes up 3 times in this episode,
yes.
And every time he wakes up, he does something. Like he acts. Like he's slowly reintegrating. Like he's slowly becoming alive again. To steal a line from Dumas, like it's happening for Picard because the Federation has become, an analog for where the United States stands at the present time. More interested in this, not using multilateralism to solve any of our problems. And I think Picard is the old to say, hey, we can solve our problems by working together and by setting goals for ourselves.
Are you trying to tell me that they
Star Trek Discovery can do that with the way it's constructed?
Are you saying they put politics in my Star Trek?
Oh, politics will always be in your Star Trek. Yeah. Like when politics are in your Star Trek, it's fun.
That's right.
But it's not Star Trek.
The memes that I have seen on Twitter lately have reminded people of "This Will Be Your Last Battlefield." Do I have the name of the episode right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Well, with where Gorshin has black on one side of his face and white on the other.
I think that's the one. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Let that be your last battlefield.
Yeah, and like, well, can't you see? Like, he's got black on his right side of his face. And so, Star Trek has always been political. Always been political. What about you? Do we need to defend this show's reason to exist?
I'm glad to have another Trek series, and glad to have another Trek series that is not bad. I mean, I like Discovery. I have no problem with it. You had to kind of jiggle stuff around and squint a bit to kind of get it to fit in with the continuity, especially for season 1. Season 2 was a little bit more integrated, but season 1 you kind of go, okay, these ships kind of look different because of A, and you kind of, okay, fair enough. But lots of people bounced off it really, really easily. It's like, and I don't know what they were expecting, whether or not it was because it was done in a different way of doing stuff rather than being that self-contained episode where you have problem A, problem B plot, and then you solve at the end. This was all Burnham and trying to get that character through her story, and that was it.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that Picard, people should hopefully realize that Picard, it's about Picard. It's got his name in the title. We're not talking a ship. We're talking the one guy. Yeah. So this is going to be about Picard. So I'm hoping that people aren't going to have as much problem with this. And I love the universe so much. And the idea that it is set 20 years after kind of extrapolates all that stuff. With the only thing you've seen apart from this is either the novels where they've kind of brought along like Riker with the Titan books and all that kind of stuff, or the MMO where they've kind of done stuff, because there's a lot of stuff in that kind of expands the timeline. But all of that will obviously be swept away if this becomes the official thing. Yeah. But that was it. After Next Generation, Voyager shut a door. I mean, Voyager, you didn't even see the Federation after they got back home, because it was like, okay, we're off home. Ping. Oh, we're there. No meeting of any ships. Nothing of Starfleet or anything like that. Right. So that was, and those occasional flashbacks to the episodes where you got like Barclay or the Doctor being broadcast over to Earth. Yeah. That was the only time you got to see anything of the Federation during that point in time. Yeah. So something like this is just such a nice return to that kind of universe, and that's always very, very good. So,
and to piggyback on Aid's point is we haven't seen a post-Dominion Federation.
No.
We just haven't. Not in any concrete, sort of serious way. Yes, like it's on the Star Trek Online, and yes, the novels will deal with it. But in terms of collective, like this is continuity Star Trek, we have not seen that yet. And to also comment on the Voyager thing, like they have a whole subplot where Tom is trying to, be his father's son, and they never get to meet.
Yeah,
and I think
true.
that's sort of a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was for so many years, like for a very long time, Star Trek's creators have been going backwards to tell Star Trek stories. First with Enterprise, and then the Star Trek 2009 reboot, and then Voyager, and
Discovery.
Discovery. Yeah. It was so conspicuous, this constant going backwards, that I began to wonder if there was some sort of legal reason for it. Like they didn't have the rights to anything farther ahead in the timeline or something. Like why are you not advancing the story? Surely you would not choose to not advance the story. That was such a bonehead decision. I just couldn't get my head around it.
See, I can only speak on the role-playing game as well.
Yeah.
When we were creating the role-playing game, they were deciding what year to set the role-playing game in.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it's 2373, 2374, which I believe is just before the Dominion stuff happens in DS9. Right. So even
it is the best year you guys could have picked. And
yes.
As a giant Star Trek fan, when I saw what year it was, I actually chilled, because that is like Trek at its most potent, most like Bowman era Trek is like you had Generations coming out, Voyager's launching, like you have so much good stuff there. Like I'm super supportive of that creative choice. If I can just be a few.
Yes, I believe that was mostly down to Nathan, but I know there was a lot of talk between what the year it was going to be. But again, I think exactly that reason, because you didn't want to go too far up the timeline to basically say, okay, this is after Voyager. Oh crap, what does the Federation look like? Okay, we literally got to do everything. So because you're kind of writing in that kind of era, at least you know what you can reference.
Right.
And I mean, if you go, obviously, the more books that come out, the more it's getting to be a little more not difficult, but you kind of branching out a bit, because you've got like the Alpha Quadrant books, the Beta Quadrant books, where you're referring to planets that have been in previous series, but through the lens of that year.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff has been advanced, some of it's kind of been this is going to happen, but not happened yet. So that's kind of tipping point. But yeah, it is odd that no one. I mean, even the 2009 movie, apart from that, literally like those first 30 minutes or whatever with Spock, that was the only time we've seen anything after any of the TV series.
Yeah, and it was really conspicuous to me, and I, like I say, I thought there must have been some sort of non-creative reason for it, but I'm glad to be proven wrong. I
don't think it's necessarily a creative reason. Like I know that Enterprise was created because they went to Bowman and they said, "We're going to make a Star Trek show without you, and we want it to be before Konk." Like that was your dictate from executives. And I think with the reboot, they were like, "What does everyone know about Star Trek?" Like just the same way Abrams sort of approached like Force Awakens. What does everyone know about Star Wars? And then just include along Kirk and Spock. How can we get Kirk and Spock, and how can we have these stories matter without pissing off the diehard fans? If you were like, we have just rebooted it and we've gotten rid of your continuity.
Right.
Yeah, and that's like, that's the one. I mean, I'm not massively a fan of the Abrams universe. It's okay, it's all right, but at least they tied it into it, having it being a time travel story. So instead of just doing the normal thing, right, we're rebooting everything doesn't matter, like they have done with other things in the past. This is like, okay, this is an offshoot. This is a parallel timeline. It's fine, and this is the reason why it's a parallel timeline, because we even show it in the first movie as well.
Yeah, the smartest decision about the 2009 reboot is that it's not a reboot, that it's a parallel timeline.
Yeah.
And so it leaves all the old continuity intact, so that we can have Picard, so we can have this show. Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is it's been 10 years since that, those movies came out, 11 years since the first one came out, and that's some people's Star Trek. Like that's what it got them into the franchise.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So more power to them.
They have been like for years, like for a decade, 20 years, Patrick Stewart has been saying he would not return for the role of Jean-Luc Picard, that he was done. And now here he is as an executive producer on the show. So what happened?
Yeah. I don't know.
They allowed him to have a dog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've heard the dog was his choice. Yes, that's very true. Yes. Yes.
Because Patrick Stewart loves. He's a big advocate of pit bulls.
Yeah.
And as a fan of pit bulls and that breed, I'm happy that my captain is down with them.
Nice.
I think it's just, Patrick Stewart has always, in addition to saying he'll never do it again, he's always said, I'm super proud of the work we did.
Right.
Every episode tried to be about something. Not every episode's good. Not every episode's great. Not every episode can be best of both worlds or family.
Right.
Sometimes you need justice to be in there, just to take you down a notch. But every episode tries, and every episode has, a point to it.
Yeah.
And Picard's always said that that's what's mattered. Like, I don't think Picard would show up for a cameo. Like, he's not going to do Spock in 2009 Star Trek, even though that's more of a guest role than a cameo.
Right.
But this is something that, we're going to be talking about America in the 2020s.
Yeah.
And how it parallels that, we have an idea of what Starfleet is. We have an idea of what the Federation is. But time and time again in the shows, we've been proving that idea is not always as concrete as we would like to think it is.
Right.
And I think we're just going to have a show that actually comments on that.
So I saw I haven't actually watched the video, but I literally saw a thing on YouTube, the header card that said all of the stuff that was in the original pitch for Picard is not in it anymore. So I have no idea what was in it. It seems to be like how did they? What was the original pitch? Number one, how did they change it because Patrick Stewart said nope, and they said right, we're going to ditch that. We're going to go through set B, and when that's it, I don't know. But it's great they managed to persuade him. But I'd really love to know what the original idea was going to be. So
there's going to be a great history book of this.
There will.
I love Star Trek production books, like just how the sausage is made and how you get people to, agree enough to be like, okay, we're going to do this thing. So I'll be anxiously devouring that book when it comes out.
I'm fascinated by the simple fact that this is a science fiction show in which the protagonist is a 79-year-old man.
Yeah.
And the show struck me as a kind of slower, smarter, kind of more intellectual attempt on science fiction. I mean, there were fighting bits, of course. There was action and lots of kung fu and phaser fire, but it was initially a pretty stately show. And I think that it was posing these sort of intellectual questions, and there's a mystery here for us to unravel. And that all felt very Star Trek to me. Slower, smarter science fiction has always been Star Trek's brand compared to Star Wars, for example. Yeah. I remember when one of the Next Gen films was coming out, and everyone was bragging about how it was going to be more action film. And I remember watching it, and I was thinking, this is like the worst action film ever. Star Trek, in my opinion, has quite frankly, action scenes are not its specialty. It's not on brand for it to be action scenes. It's got some great ones. But it's really about this kind of questioning and intellectual puzzling over ideas. And this is a good show for that, it seems to me. And maybe it's because I'm not a 25-year-old guy anymore, but I found it very easy to empathize with Picard, and I was struck by how kind of hapless he is in this episode. I remember when like Daj, is that her name? The woman that's Daj like is pulling him up the staircase, and he's like wheezing out of breath by the time he gets to the roof, and she stuffs him under shelter to hide while she does all the fighting. His housekeeper, the Romulan woman that helps take care of him, Laris, she talks to him like he's a child, and this whole episode was setting him up as, quite frankly, a guy who feels old. And it's all set up for that speech near the end that Aid, you already mentioned, where he sort of realizes that he hasn't been living, that he's been kind of waiting to die. And Jim, you mentioned those constant wake up moments, right? Where he's constantly waking up and being forced to interrogate himself or do something, wake up and do something. Yeah. And I'm looking for that show. I want to see the show about a guy who's 80 or so close, it doesn't matter. A guy who's 80, figuring out if he can still contribute, if he still has a heroic moment ahead of him instead of just all of them behind him. I want to see that show.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what the the person who's never really seen Trek thinks about it.
yeah.
Because totally. Everyone that knows Picard and knows Star Trek Next Generation, they're going to immediately go, okay, it's new Star Trek. Okay, if I can see it, I will see it. Yeah. And especially if you're a big Trek fan. Then you get like the casual Trek fans that kind of go, okay, well, I know of it. I've seen 1 or 2 episodes, but whatever. Because I know the Vault called back to so many episodes in the actual TV series without being blatantly obvious about, no, that's the time we did this and that's the time we did that. Yeah. It's like, okay, it's all there. If you're peeking, looking into stuff, you actually see stuff. You go, oh, that's the banner for that, whatever. But some of the people that have never seen it, that will just completely gloss over them. They will have no clue whatsoever that even means anything to anybody.
All right, so this is a huge topic we should unpack. Like, this episode is filled with little Easter eggs from the television episodes and the films. I only recognized a few of them. I recognized the Picard Day banner. I recognized Blue Skies at the beginning of the episode from when Data sings it. But I'm sure there's countless more stuff going on here that I just didn't recognize. Is anybody, Jim, you want to, or Aid, either one of you want to jump in?
I believe the model is of the captain's yacht in the Vault, and I believe the Stargazer is a model of the Stargazer there as well, unless I'm incorrect. I think that was a Stargazer.
Yeah, there is a Stargazer.
Yeah. But again, reference to previous series as well, even just not inside that Vault. The idea that you had Data and Picard in the grey topped uniforms for that part, and then when he's doing the painting, you have the classic uniforms. It's like, oh my God, right. They're actually referencing stuff that people know about. Rather than doing, when they did the Star Wars reboot, they did, well, not the reboot, the Force Awakens. Yeah. Somebody came along and said, Stormtroopers, bollocks to that. I can do a better job than that, and they redesigned all the costumes. Yes. When Rogue One came along, they said, let's put the original stuff in there. And the kind of Discovery, the same things. Discovery's like, we're not going to have those yellow T-shirty things that they wear in the classic. We're going to give us that. And then obviously second season come along, they kind of at least went near to that, but not quite to that. Yeah. Just the sheer joy of seeing somebody actually acknowledge those original uniforms is brilliant. So that's one of the Easter eggs I would include. Just the idea that he's got the right uniform on. That's just brilliant.
It reminds me of that episode, the Tribbles flashback episode when what's her name, Jadzia Dax, is like fingering the communicator and like, it's so vintage. And that was a reference to all of us who are total nerds over the costumes and the props, and like we fan out over all of these things like costumes, and Star Trek fans pay attention to uniforms. So yes, that's a huge.
Yeah, because it wasn't even like they used just the grey uniforms. It's like they used 2 uniforms. It's like, oh my God, yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, totally. Jim?
So, I've been thinking about this a lot, like in terms of fan service, because there was a lot of fan service going on.
Yeah.
But like the fan service that happens in Iron Man 2 when Captain America's shield is used to prop up some device, right?
Yeah. Hand me that.
It doesn't matter. It's a paperweight. It doesn't matter. It's not important.
Right.
The audience knows it's important.
Yes.
But like Tony Stark has no reference for it. And it's just
Captain America is not an element of the story. It's not like America is propping up Tony Stark's device. right?
And that would be interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like that right there was more interesting than anything in that movie. But that's another podcast.
There's elements of Iron Man 2 I really like, but that is another podcast, like you said.
There's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
In terms of like, yes, they give us the uniforms, and they'll obviously they're new uniforms. Like they're made new. They're not the same uniforms, because both men have changed body types since 18 years, like men do when they grow old.
That's right.
But the fact that they adhered to the design of it is and didn't waver, didn't add a pep, like it's the uniform.
Yeah.
Like that's exciting. More exciting for me though is all the things that are used to prop up the theme.
Okay, so tell me what you mean by that.
So I think everything that you see in Picard's archive is there for intention. So yes, there's the Picard Day banner, and that can represent his lack of family, the fact that he doesn't have a crew anymore, the fact that his closest friend is now a dog, as opposed to being a Riker, or a Jack Crusher. But in that episode, what does Picard have to do? He stands against the Federation, breaking a treaty with the Romulans.
Okay.
That's the Pegasus episode. That's the whole point.
Okay.
He makes a stand against Starfleet.
I see.
The Insurrection shuttle, yes, it's cute that it's there. The only time we've ever seen the captain's yacht was when he made a stand against Starfleet. When you see the dagger, on the wall, above the Batline, you see the classic Klingon dagger. That's the dagger that Jono used to stab him in the episode Suddenly Human, and that precipitated his having a change of heart.
Oh,
so there's all these things here that's like, if you're as gone to the wind as I am, and you're like, oh my God, this is why it's here. It's not just here to make me feel good. It's here to support the themes, and to tell me that Picard and Starfleet are coming to a head.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason he doesn't get a commission. There's a reason he doesn't, he's not wearing a space uniform. Like, he has to make Starfleet again.
You mentioned before the show something about the hat. Is there like a
yes? So there was a moment where Picard is standing in the middle, and he's got the tie issue, and there's a hat rack by the stairs in the background.
Okay.
And it's the Dixon Hill hat.
Oh.
Well, the first time we see Dixon Hill, the case he's solving is the case of a dead girl.
Wow.
In The Big Goodbye, the reason he gets thrown in jail is because the person who went to go see him in the opening teaser is now dead, and Dixon Hill is charged with the arrest, with the murder.
It is a classic noir detective story start, right? Where someone comes to meet you, you say no, or you don't help them, and then they die, and you spend the rest of the book trying to make up for your fuck up. Yeah.
And the whole thing is that's not in the archives. That's in his home. And that's where Dodge meets him, is at his home.
Yeah.
So like all these little things I think are being sprinkled around. Like the fact that they're playing poker in the beginning scene. And the last thing we saw in Next Generation was them playing poker.
And that I caught. That I remember.
Yeah, those big ones. And then I think these subtle ones that they'll just like, yes, but this is here for a reason. It's not just the tribble on Lorca's desk.
Right.
Like the tribble on Lorca's desk doesn't add anything. It's just there to be like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's the Captain America shield. Oh, it's next time, baby. It's these little things that are just there to be cute in and of itself. But I think with this show and the fact that we have a novelist who's the showrunner.
You're talking about Kirsten Beyer.
What I'm talking about, Michael Chabon.
Chabon, yeah.
The Pulitzer Prize-winning creator of The Escapist.
Yep.
Yeah, like the fact that we have two novelists, one of whom works in media tie-in novels, and I'm not just being disparaging of that, and then one of them whom works in literary fiction. The fact that those two people so closely associated with the show, I think lends it that air of being deliberate, of being slow,
And
of
if you have
subtlety.
if you are listening to this podcast and you have not read The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, you are in for a treat. It is a Pulitzer Prize winning novel about two characters living in the comic book boom of 1938. Fair warning, about 2/3 of the way through, it hits a rough patch and the timeline skips ahead about 16 years. And a lot of people lose the book at that point. Don't lose it. Finish it, because it's got a great ending.
You could go into the bookstore right now and pick up any book by Michael Chabon, and it is going to give you an emotional reaction.
And he has been a very strong proponent recently of genre fiction, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and his desire to break down the barrier between what we would call regular fiction or literary fiction and genre fiction. And I think that this show is trying to bring people to science fiction that would not normally watch science fiction. And it's interesting to compare it to Mandalorian, which just came out, a couple of months ago. Did you watch Mandalorian?
We haven't had it yet. We don't get it till March.
You don't get it till March.
Hell no.
Well, so I'm going to, that Baby Yoda is in it.
Oh, yeah. You can't avoid it. Yeah. yeah.
It's interesting because Mandalorian is trying to bring people to Star Wars that would never watch Star Wars. And the main way to do that is with this really cute little Baby Yoda. And it works. Like, millions of people are tuning into this because it's got this cute little puppet in it. And this show is taking the intellectual high road route. Like, there's Baby Yodas in this show. We're gonna try to slowly ask these kind of big questions about our culture and about tragedy and about age and about, so let's talk about the characters that are coming back to the show. We've already mentioned some of them already. We saw Data, Brent Spiner playing Data, was big in this episode, and he doesn't really share the episode with any other recurring character because he's so important, obviously, to the plot. But we've already seen trailers with Riker and Troy and Hugh, the Borg character from Next Generation, who's in 2 or 3 episodes from that original series. And 7 of 9, of course. So what's the dangers here? Are you worried about too many recurring characters coming back? How much is just the right amount? Do you want regulars to come back, or you want them to just be a little bit sort of guest stars or cameos, or do you not want them at all, or what's the golden mean here?
Is this being posed to me?
Sure.
You can go first. Go
first.
Okay, I have two reactions.
Okay.
There was the fanboy in me who's like, yes, I spent 7 years following Riker and Troy's romance.
Yes.
I need to see them at least together. Like, that's something that as a fanboy I need.
Okay.
As someone who enjoys story structure, as someone who enjoys the art of creating fictions and making sure that everything has a meaning, I am a little cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Like, from the trailer, it's obvious that Picard's going to be presented with a dilemma.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be wrestling with it, and he goes to his number one, his original number one.
Yes.
And goes, hey, what do I need to do? This is what I want to do. And Michael goes, well, that sounds awful, but I can't talk you out of
Right.
it. So do it. Like, that's like, if it can mirror the scene that Michael and Picard have in Encounter at Farpoint, where he's in when they're in the lounge, the briefing room, and he's like, okay, my job is to tell you not to go on away missions. And he's like, captain's prerogative. And he's like, well, I guess I have to allow that. Like, if that can mirror that sequence, then I'm fine with that. I don't need it to become the Riker Troy show.
Right.
And like, it's not called Star Trek Next Generation Part 2.
Sure.
Abe,
what do you think?
So I'm kind of like, I want to see Guinan. I want to see the EMH. I want to see these other things.
Yeah.
But I want everything that I see to have meaning and to progress the narrative of Picard's story. They can be supporting characters in his narrative, but I don't want them to overshadow the narrative.
Well, we know that Guinan is coming back because
Yes.
Goldberg was invited back to the show on an episode of The View and said yes live on camera. So we know that's happening.
Yeah.
Abe?
I think Data was handled really well in the first episode.
Yeah.
Because he was there, but he didn't overshadow.
Okay.
And it made sense if the idea you've got synths and all this kind of stuff, the idea that Data is involved in that. But I mean, the thing they could have done was literally they could have. Oh, okay. I have a dream about Data. Okay, I go to Daystrom. I go and switch on B4, and we've got a Data pops up. They could have easily done that.
They could have.
And they could have gone along as they're two people, jolly off, Sherlock and Holmes doing their Sherlock and Watson kind of thing. Sorry, and going their thing. But they didn't do that. He's there as like an overarching shadow, but not actually as a dominant character. And I think that's really good. Whether or not that was due to Brent Spiner only wanting to do little bits, or whether or not that was just, I don't know. But I think, again, because we've seen the episode, the way it ends with the Romulans on the Borg cube.
Yep.
And people saying, again, references to the 2009 film saying that the big ship that they took back in time possibly had Borg technology in it. Yep. The idea that somewhere along the line past Borg are involved, that would make sense both for Hugh Borg and for 7 of 9 to show up and actually become part of that kind of thing. And again, maybe because of this synth banning, they're kind of on the outskirts of it, saying, okay, well, you're part artificial, you're part. So you're shunned, you're banned from the Federation or something, but we're not going to shut you down, kind of thing. That we don't really know where that's going to kind of end, but that's a possibility.
Well, and if we remember, yes, Q introduces us to the Borg in season 2, but the Borg threat shows up in the very first episode that the Romulans are seen in The Next Generation, the Neutral Zone.
Yes,
because
they do.
They're talking about
dig up the
cities
thing,
that are scooped out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's the first thing they attack in the quadrant, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
It's those Romulan and Federation colony wounds. So the Romulans have been concerned about the Borg since before we had a name for them.
But again, I like that. I like this idea. Mm-hmm. That's another thing which is so good that they've linked it to the past series, because they haven't just gone, oh well, the Borg was an Earth problem. Nobody else in the universe really cared about it. It's like, well, the Romulans are going to care about it because they might be able to lay their hands on some tech or some weaponry that's floating around in space. Well, let's go and have a look. And they've probably had this for a good long while. They've probably been using this for ages to do something with it. And the idea that it's obviously got something to do with the Simps, and it's obviously there's a tying around there somewhere that kind of links the two plots together. Yeah, we haven't just got like a coincidental thing. The idea that you've got Romulans on the Borg cube. I mean, again, we were talking about like designs of people doing new designs. They've got new ships in there, but as soon as the new ships appeared going through that force field into the Borg cube, because they are bird shaped, you immediately go Romulan ships. Yeah, they must be Romulans, and it's it's just such a nice design aesthetic as well. But I'm hoping they don't oversaturate. Let's say Riker and Troy showing up as a scene or two, 7 and 9 and Hugh possibly being like on the crew as such doing their thing. That's not a problem. I would be. So they've said that Star Trek Picard is going to be 3 seasons long. Okay. So it's going to take us into the 25th century essentially. Okay. Because this is set the year before. The next season will be set during the turning year, and then the last season will be set during that. In all that time, if I don't get a mention of where Beverly Crusher is or Wesley, I will, as a fan, be upset. Yeah, Beverly Crusher would definitely be a good addition.
You have enough weight there to give me a moment, even if it's just him looking at a photograph and being like, I'm sad that she's gone, or something like that.
We're going to have to explain Beverly Crusher at some point, and I think they kind of need to do it soon, frankly. Like you said, we've not got this. As far as I know, we haven't got the supporting show. But if you're saying Will Wheaton is involved in the supporting show, the last time we saw him was traveling the universe with the Traveler.
Well, actually, he shows up in uniform in Nemesis at Riker's wedding.
Does he?
Yes, there was a cut scene with Picard, Beverly, and he says that he's going to become the tactical officer of the Titan.
Okay. So again, I'd like to see him as well because again, Wesley Crusher, and they go, oh, Wesley Crusher. I just think Will Wheaton is fantastic. So the idea that they can get him in there somewhere would be really nice. Especially, just bring him in with Beverly Crusher. Why not? They can reunited in the past and they can turn up at some point. But and again, there was talk. I've seen this on I can't remember what forum it was. Someone was saying that the 4 queens that Data puts down at the very first scene.
5 queens.
5 queens. Sorry, that's 4 Qs. Now that's either Q for Q or Q for Borg Queen. Now, I don't need to see the Borg Queen, but I mean, we are dealing with the Borgs. I mean, there's a possibility, and Picard is implicitly tied into the Borg. The cutest thing is it's not just it's someone I fought. That's part of his thing.
Picard has 2 great arch enemies: the Romulans and the Borg.
Yeah,
and so of course the series had to combine them.
And he has a jealous boyfriend out there in Q.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and again, it's that would be. I mean, a Q Shenup would be killer. But not in this season. If this story kind of ties up after 10 episodes and they decide to go in, I mean, Q versus Guinan. I mean, those two sparring off against each other like they did in the series would be brilliant.
Well, it's already for a second season, so we already know the second season is coming.
So I would like to see. I mean, Q's always been that niggly, but he's always been obsessed with Picard. So the idea that he doesn't show up at some point and you go, oh, well, okay, you're back to your old ways again, kind of thing, would be really nice. So,
all right. Well, listen, we've been going almost an hour. Does anyone have any final thoughts on this first episode that we haven't touched on yet? Otherwise, we're going to come back maybe next week and do the second episode of Space Force.
All right, I'm gonna go on my fan booking for a second.
Okay.
I texted you this.
All right.
But I want to put it down on the record.
Okay.
On the record, I am saying that by the end of the season, we won't have a Data that's a synthetic.
Data will live again.
Data will become a real boy. that I'm putting money on it.
All right. How $10?
$10. All right.
$10.
$10. End of the season, Brent Spinell is embracing his daughter as a human.
I'll take that bet.
Okay.
8.
Okay. Okay. Just as an offshoot, again, this is another question that you might be able to explain this, right? Data came 3rd in line. Would that be correct? You got Law B4 first, Law 2nd, and Data 3rd, because Law was always a slightly dodgy version that got upgraded to Data when he became Data. Yeah. Right. So, explain to me why B4 is called Before when he didn't know he was going to make another 2. Why in the episode Data Law, Data comes first and Law comes second, and Law came first in the thing. That was bugged the crap out of me every time. It's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Anyway.
Wait, why don't we park on a driveway and drive on a parkway, okay?
Yeah. That's always fit, because that just with B4 being there, it's like, okay, B4, yeah, we get it, he was first, but how did you know? The second thing being is, how many synthetics are out there that are not Data that are enough to cause a problem for the Federation? So where did he come from? Are we talking Harry Mudd robot androids that have got repurposed from those episodes? Because that would be really cool, but they come from a completely different galaxy, so they're not even something that Daystrom created.
The universe is not kind enough to me for a Harry Mudd tie-in in this.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Discovery. I have to watch Discovery for Harry Mudd.
Yeah. So I'd like to see a bit more expansion on that, and it actually explain what these synthetics are. Are we talking something that are literally just kind of like automatons that aren't humanoid, or are we talking something like that? Because or are we talking some weird thing where they're like ex-Borg or something that have been repurposed, and that would kind of make some. But yeah,
like the original series has androids. I mean,
yes.
Those are the Harry Mudd androids, but those also the Colby androids. Those Rock, who's the old, he comes from the old ones. whatever the fuck the old ones are, or outside of the Lovecraftian, reference.
Yeah.
So I don't think Trek has done a good job of ever reconciling that we've had androids and that Data is a special android. I think this show is going to go to, cementing why Data is we know Data is special because we've seen every episode of The Next Generation. We've seen his journey from can't whistle to sacrificing his life on, Shinzon's Predator ship, right? But I don't think the universe has ever really given us a satisfying explanation as to what made Data unique.
Yeah, because they're always saying generally speaking, if you break it down to think, the idea is he's got at least some kind of emotions. The idea he's got a positronic brain. Are the other synthetics literally just Asimov's third law style stuff? We will not attack humans, and that's as far as their mindset goes. Right. Or are they all individual people that have been outlawed and stuff? So yeah, I'd like to see that kind of thing, and I'm really hoping that because, like I said before, because we've got Hugh 7 and 9 there, they are in that kind of middle ground, and that's why they're in the episode. So that would kind of at least make some sense as well.
All right. Well,
but anyway,
we have a lot to look forward to. I'm interested to watch the rest of the series. Thank you both for coming on, Jim and Aid.
My pleasure.
And we're gonna post some links to everybody's work here on the comments for this video, so you can follow Jim on Twitter or Aid avoids all social media. He is a tech hermit.
I do my best.
But you can still catch his stuff on the Star Trek Adventures RPG, which is a lot of fun, by the way. That's a great game.
It's a very nice system. Yeah, I'm very proud to have worked on it. It's such a cool book. Yeah.
And we'll see everybody next week.